Hello, everyone. Welcome to eTalks. My name is Zeynep Özçelik, and nice to meet you. All right, everyone in our live, welcome everyone. We are eTalks and made by International Aragon Art and Academy. And International Aragon Art and Academy is an activist group that has been planning and implementing various projects, educational programs, seminars, and productions for the past 20 years. Based on the radical idea that art will save the world, Aragon aims to spread awareness of how important artistic expression is to both individuals and society as a whole through events featuring scientific speakers, performances, and more. Our events cover a wide range of topics, including culture and art presentations, seminars, symposiums, workshops on different fields of art, artist gatherings, exhibitions, concerts, shows, science, culture, and art field trips. And now we're launching our brand new talk show, the eTalks. During our talks, we'll be joined by experts in the fields of science, culture, and art who will give presentations on topics related to their areas of expertise. These presenters include artists, academicians, scientists, authors, storytellers, musicians, and activists who are experienced and passionate about their fields. And here we have our very first guest, Saif Islam. We are delighted to have Professor Islam, who is a world-renowned electrical and computer re-engineering professor from UC Davis, who has received his PhD in UCLA in 2001. He is also the director of a Center for Information Technology Research in the Interest of Society, and with an impressive list of achievements, and such as authoring over 300 scientific papers, chairing 34 conferences, and inventing 42 patents. We can't wait to hear what he has to say about sustainability and the impact of environmental insensitivities and the industrialization process in the last century. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you, Zeynep. Good afternoon or good evening, everyone, depending on where you are. It's really a great pleasure to be with you all. And the topic of discussion today is also among the most important and highest priority topics that we engineers, non-engineers, citizens in the world all discuss. This is a great initiative. I really appreciate the fact that young people are taking charge of the world, and this is your world. We will all one day have to leave, but you will remain here for a longer time, and there are problems, and there are solutions to all potential problems, and I'm glad that I see interest and enthusiasm to address those. I'll focus on if I can successfully.
That would be awesome. And if you have any questions or audience, feel free to type in the chat and we will return you after the presentation.
Very good. And feel free to stop me anytime. I'm not sure. You probably have only 5 people here, but wherever the questions may come from, feel free to stop anytime. Because I'm at UC Davis, I would like to share the fact that we as a campus are extremely sustainable. We care a lot about it. In 2016, UC Davis was named the most sustainable university in the world. Right now, we are among top 10 or top 20 in the world and probably top 5 in North America. And the fact that we emphasize this and the fact that we are among the leaders in agriculture, in food production, in veterinary science and other areas, it shows where sustainability is really important and how sustainability drive can contribute to making a tangible change to the world. So I'll give a few examples and you will see how things are really currently happening, and the way we do things need to change a lot. Here you're looking at the kelp forest in Californian coast, where a diver is basically explaining to young people how the kelp forest works, how the ecosystem is, how fishes and others take shelter and continue to remain there for generations, and how important it is to filter out all the carbon dioxide and obnoxious materials that we produce outside water, and how these things, if we lose for some reason, would contribute to a big disaster. And so this is really great that we in California had a lot of those in the past. So now, and you see another picture showing a lot of fishes in real kelp forest. And in addition to kelp forest, there are a lot of other trees and plants that grow in this kind of water. There are a lot of California typically has other urchins, and these purple ones are extremely aggressive. They basically eat everything around. They kill the fishes, and the plants slowly start to disappear. So here's the Californian coast, number of cities people experimented with, and they found that between 2008 on the left to 2016, you see slowly the kelp forest disappearing in different locations of California. Now, why is this important? It's important because if you clean the water, on the left, you see how the natural seawater would look like with all these plants and seaweeds and kelps. On the right, you see a clean desert-like seawater, which has no fish, everything is dead. And it happened, I'll briefly just mention what happened over time. So you're looking at on the top graph, you're looking at temperature fluctuation during winter and summer. Temperature fluctuates a little bit, 1 degree or 2 degrees. But then recently it started to fluctuate more by more than 1 or 2 degrees. And that's really very sensitive thing. And all the trees and plants and all these other urchins, they can't really survive. They become weaker. They have, you can say, flu or other disease that they are not supposed to experience. And over time, the stronger one, the purple urchins from another location, they basically are from colder water. Those urchins come and take over the land. And also the density of starfish over time decreases, the density of the purple urchins increases, the density of other, all the beings that we need there as an ecosystem member, they also disappear. So what is literally happening? The two curves you see here are distribution of temperature throughout the years. So the one on the left shows you have some cold days and you have some hot days and you have average days. So this is not only for California, it's for all the countries in the world, average. But now what happened is the curve on the right shows it shifted to more hotter kind of situation, which means there are a couple of days that are extremely cold, extremely hot. It's like for out of 365 days, maybe 350 days are all manageable and pleasant, but the remaining 2 weeks are extremely hot. So hot, we human beings can maybe take shelter in a air-conditioned room, but trees and animals cannot. So what happens is if you keep increasing the temperature in a tub from room temperature by 1 degree every few minutes, the frog will not really realize whatever is happening. But at one point, it will be boiled, fried in hot water, even though it would not really understand what was happening. So we slowly see a change, 1 degree, half a degree, and then suddenly we see disaster happening in a plant world, in our climate. And all this cold wave all over the country are basically the manifestation of such problems. And if our temperature is increased by 1 degree, which is very close to happen now, 4% of seawater would be absorbed by air or atmosphere, which is really not a good news because this 4% of ocean water is a lot of water. If the temperature rises by 2 degrees, 10% of seawater would be in air, and the storm would be even more stronger. Things would really look rough, and that's what we are experiencing here in California. We had no electricity for days. We saw trees are falling around right here, right now. I'm in a university building. One part of the building collapsed because a very heavy tree fell on the roof, and this is really a common phenomenon now. So I'll give a few more examples, and you will see how business are being currently conducted. It's about your computer. Your computer uses 2/3 of the energy to just cool it down. It's like if we eat food and we need food to think, to work, but then if our body gets really, really hot and if our food is used just to keep us cool, it would be a lot of wasted energy. Most of the computers in America are consuming so much of energy. If you take the total amount of energy just for cooling down the computers, it's more than what Australians use for everything. So that's really not a good news for the designers. And then we have unsafe internet, which not only does a lot of good things, the way we are currently communicating, really helpful, but then there are a lot of unsustainably bad things happening in the society because of all these social media, technology development, and internet that happened. So are we supposed to stop using all those? No, we are now looking for ways to make all these things safe and more sustainable. I'll give one example from Turkey. These are the kind of situations you see in the middle of farming lands now. So what happened is because of climate change, there is less rainfall in some areas. So people do a lot of irrigation using groundwater. And as you reduce the groundwater, ground actually creates this kind of sudden depressions, and you create sinkholes. And that sinkhole, if you now keep looking back and see what the reasons are, the reason probably is happening the way we are driving car, the way we are designing our cities, the way we are designing our products, and that really needs to change. One area of our extremely important industry is the cloth industry, fashion design industry, and people say world's carbon footprint is heavily influenced by fashion design industry, almost 25% of it, which basically means we are buying too many things and the planet cannot really sustainably support all of us.
Professor, have you heard of Sway Sue Shop? It's a new fashion designing shop in California, actually, and they have been combating this with recycling their materials, and I think that's a very nice way of just being sustainable in that. And I have just reminded of that because we're talking about how it's impacting Californians, but I'm really glad to see there also change made by Californians, such as these shops. So it has been really nice to hear you mention this.
This is really important because most of the fabrics we use, they probably can survive for decades. Now, your clothes, the way it's designed today, may not look good in a year or two, but the fact that there is a drive now to recycle those and then make use of these things that used a lot of carbon to create those in the manufacturing plants is really, really important, because these are almost for hundreds of years, these would remain undestructible. Most of these are not natural materials. They are man-made polymers and other inorganic compounds, and they need to be treated this way so that the carbon footprint is reduced. Also would like you to pay attention to the fact that even if you say we in America are clean, it doesn't really matter much. 29% of San Francisco's pollution comes from China. And so the world is integrated. If we make a bad decision here, it impacts not only us, our children, it also impacts others outside this country. And the impact is now really visible. Many parts of the world right now experiences all this climate and weather-related roller coaster pattern, but soon there will be a lot of refugees coming from different countries. And all those would contribute to unrest, political problems, food shortage, and all that really is caused by the way we do things in a non-sustainable way. There are past tragedies. This island on the right, Easter Island, because they didn't really do their business in a sustainable way, they actually went out of business. They cut down all the trees, they used up all the resources. On the left, you see the Indus Valley civilization. They decided to block the water of all the rivers in Indus Valleys. And eventually at one point, the cities are still there, but the people disappeared because the way they designed their life was not a sustainable one. So this is important to note that we in America are among the most negative contributors to the sustainability issue. If everyone in the planet decides to live the way American lives, we will need 5 planets to support the lifestyle. But now, if people decide not to live like Americans, people just decide to live the way they are now living all over the world, the average of 1.7 planets would be needed to support the lifestyle. So what do we need? Sustainability literally needs to take the fact into consideration that we are actually using more resources than whatever is available to us. And that's like using up the resource of the future generation. And sustainability means we have to use and plan our life and the resources so that we not only address our needs, but also leave adequate amount of resources for our future generation. And there, we are not really doing a good job. And this gentleman, David Attenborough, he says, anyone who believes in indefinite growth in a physically finite planet is either mad or an economist. No offense to any economist, but economists would like to have unsustainable growth forever. That really is not possible because we have a limited planet with a finite size and finite resources. So in the past, the trend of technology, as you see, with different things like printing press, telescope, car, telephone, we made progress slowly. But recently, we decided to make progress exponentially. We have cars, we have a lot of computer, we have a machine-assisted, totally new kind of lifestyle. We have AI, and we simply forget that to support such an exponential growth, we are actually destroying whatever our future generation needs to continue their lives, a normal life. So on this chart, I'm showing the way the demand on unsustainable material increase. So here on the left, you see coal, oil, natural gas. So what will happen is this demand will continue to grow, but at one point we'll see that there is no natural gas, no oil, no coal. So before that happens, suddenly you run out of everything and then your civilization stops. We need to plan. And that's what the main focus of sustainability is. How do we address all this? No one would care. No one would really pay attention to be sustainable unless you have some feeling for others, unless you care about your children, your grandchildren. So that's golden rule, which is no one of you is a believer until he desires for his brother what he desires for himself. So that's our tradition. But then you can look at any tradition, it's basically same message. And there, obviously, the world doesn't really pay attention to this kind of messages now. But the fact that we are experiencing a terrible weather pattern now, we are experiencing a lot of issues that are directly impacting us. We started to pay attention, but then to add energy and stimulate us and our strengthen us, we need something in addition. And golden rule is really one of those. Dostoevsky, a Russian novelist, he basically thinks you are in fact to blame for any misery others experience anywhere in the world. So basically, if someone is suffering now, we are also responsible for the suffering.
We are
Right
in fact very interdependent on each other, especially in the global age.
We are. And so that people obviously didn't pay much attention, but now we see direct impact. And one other very important rule for making something sustainable is to have heart. So here is one nice quote by the Dov Sidman. He says, one thing machines don't have, and people are worried about machines taking over everything in future. One thing machines don't have is a heart, is morality. The industrial economy hired hands in 18th, 19th century. The current knowledge economy hires heads. If you're trained, you do a good job as an employee. The future human economy will hire hearts. So we need heart to address those. But then we also need to innovate ways to address this. And because I'm with University of California, I would brag a little bit about my university again. University of California is the #1 in the innovators list in the world, followed by a number of other top schools. Actually, most of the top 10 members are American, other than Tsinghua University in China. So what is the role of all this innovation? Innovations makes your economy strong. And I think sustainability would require a lot of innovations. If you're interested in starting a business, if you're interested in having own idea, pursue it to take it to the next level, adding a flavor of sustainability definitely would make it strong. And if it is an innovative idea, then you have a strong business. Did people really address some of the sustainability related problems in the recent past? They did. So here I'm showing a slide that shows in 2005, 20% of US electricity for lighting got reduced to 5% by 2021 because people decided to use a light bulb called LED instead of those traditional light bulbs. And I shared a video link with you, Zainab, on how people in the past would make light bulbs that would break after 1,000 hours or 1,500 hours so that light bulb companies can make more light bulbs. And obviously for them, it's a business, but for the planet, it's not really good. So these LED light bulbs would survive for 50 years if you really don't do a bad design. And then they would reduce your electricity from 20% of the total electricity consumption to 5%. So technology also helps, and this is what we need to do. You cannot really simply ask people to stop driving car. You simply need to come up with an alternative ways to make the car driving more sustainable.
Professor, I have a question though.
Sure.
So we said that innovation, especially at this age, is very important, and we have lots of opportunities, and we must think about how to make sustainable innovations. But on the other hand, especially in the light bulb example, if there is, planned obsolescence, how are we actually innovating, or are we trying to reach a point that should have been reached at the beginning? For example, if we're trying to invent a light bulb for, let's say, 6,000 hours or 8,000 hours, but it's actually like, when it was invented, back in the 19th century, back in the 20th century, its first invention of the light bulb, actually lasted more than that. Are we trying to go backwards, or are we actually innovating?
We are trying to, when people invented the light bulb, there is still a 100-year-old light bulb in California now. Those light bulbs, and during those days, sustainability was not really a big factor in our society. Now the light bulb company also would be happy to come up with a light bulb that lasts forever, and then their business model would probably include something to still make money. Or if it doesn't make money, companies would be fine. Or if you have a new idea and you start a company and you say, my light bulb will last for 25 years and the price is almost same, the other company would go out of business. This happens all the time. You can come up with a very evil plan to exploit the ignorance of people, but now people are more conscious, and young generation with this kind of tools and sustainability knowledge are more interested in going for solutions that will keep their planet safer. So I would say innovation still is important. The initial innovation, which would allow us to keep a light bulb forever, unfortunately, all those know-how were suppressed and over time disappeared. But research can again find those. And you used to use an old-fashioned light bulb. Now you have a new kind of light bulb, and you need to just do more research to make it more long-lasting, so that environmental footprint is small, while if possible, you can also make it low in cost. So there is drive. And if you don't like the current light bulb, if you have a solution, innovative idea, start a company, and I can tell you, people will buy a light bulb. In fact, in California, everything is now illegal other than the LED light bulbs. And I'm sure other states are doing that too. Now you come up with a new product which says 100 years for each light bulb minimum. California would right away ban everything else and will go for your light bulb. So that's really common in many other countries. And you might have all seen 3 people got Nobel Prize to study the way the planet is warming up, how you're cooking in the kitchen, how you're washing of clothes, how you're taking shower or manufacturing of your shoes are contributing to this warming, was modeled by these 3 people in 60s and 70s, and they got Nobel Prize recently. And the reason they had to wait that long is now people think this is really not sustainable anymore to do business the old-fashioned way. So these people are currently brought to limelight so that we understand how everything is interrelated. How you sneeze here and people somewhere else suffer. That's how it is. The world is extremely interconnected. So I'll stop with a short story, and then we can have an interactive active discussion with you all. There was a material, if there are people 40, 45, 50-year-old people who they probably would recognize. This material is called DDT, dimethyl trichloroethane. So it was really a great material to kill insects, and people would spray it in their neighborhood, spray it in their farming land. It would be available widely all over the world, and people would even use it in their hair to kill lice. And what happened is pretty soon people found that you are trying to kill insects and all these little bugs, and birds have nothing to eat, and birds die. And then your vegetables and fruits are all contaminated with this material, and eventually it goes in your body, and then pregnant women lose their babies, and then birds lose their eggs really eventually rot because of this material. Even though it was killing a lot of bugs, people didn't really study the side effect. So let me mention, in 1939, a chemist from Europe, Paul Hermann Muller, invented this. In 1948, he got Nobel Prize because it was such a wonderful material. And in 1972, it got banned because it was killing people right and left. It was killing birds. It was destroying communities after communities. And it got banned in 2001 all over the world. So I'll tell you a story of this material. So after people realized that this was happening, one lady called Rachel Carson, she was not a scientist, she was simply a reporter. She wrote a book called Silent Spring. Basically, she found that spring came, there was no bird around, there is no singing, the flowers are not blooming because there are no bees, no insects to go around the flowers to make the pollination work. So the story starts this way. There was once a town in the heart of America where all life seemed to be in harmony with its surroundings. The town lay in the midst of checkerboard of prosperous farms with fields of grain and hillsides of orchards, where white clouds of bloom drifted above the green land. In autumn, oak and maple and birch set up a blaze of color that flamed and flickered across backdrop of pines. Then foxes barked in the hills and deer crossed the fields, half hidden in the mists of the morning. Among the roads, laurel, viburnum, and alder, great ferns, and wildflowers delighted the traveler's eyes through much of the year. Even in winter, the roadside were placed in places of beauty, where countless birds came to feed on the berries, on the seeds, heads of the dried weeds rising above the snow. So this is how the beautiful city was. Then she says, then one spring, a strange blight crept over the area. Everything began to change. Some evil spell had settled on the community. Mysterious maladies swept the flocks of chickens and cattle, and sheep sickened and died. Everywhere was the shadow of death. The farmers told of much illness among their families. In the town, doctors are becoming more and more puzzled by new kinds of sickness that had appeared among their patients. There had been several sudden and unexplained deaths, not only among the adults, but also among the children, who would be stricken while they were at play and would die within a few hours. So you see, the situation really looked terrible. And this is
very dystopic.
This was caused by DDT. Now, you can consider this as a metaphor, just like this DDT which got banned in America in 1972. President John F. Kennedy read the book after Silent Spring was published in 1960s, and he took an initiative, and the whole country found that this is one of the bad materials that civilization needs to stop using. We have so many other similar materials and practices and habits and processes in place. All those need to be identified. Now, although the book looks pretty dramatic, like things are dying, birds are falling off the sky, all these didn't really happen in the same city, but it happened all over the country in different time, different locations. The similar kind of DDT-like problems are happening all over the world. We need to identify all those, and we need to work on those to make things sustainable. If something doesn't look sustainable, we just ban it the way this was banned, or we look for finding an alternative so that we can continue to take care of all the necessary problems, but we don't really create a huge side effect and destroy our society, which is going to be used by future generations for years and centuries. I'll stop here, and we can maybe have discussions together.
Thank you so much, Professor, for the wonderful presentation. I have personally learned a lot, but from seeing the comments, I see that many people have learned a lot. There are people who are thanking us for the presentation. So I have a couple of questions. First one is, how can we, balance the economy, the constant growth that is aimed by the economists, and and the sustainability? Because on the one hand, there needs to be a market for new products, every time, and on the other hand, there needs to be some sustainability in order to keep surviving, because infinite growth is not consistent with an infinite planet. So with a finite planet. So what do you think about this? How can we protect our economy, especially in the United States during this, consumer age, but also keep a very sustainable life?
So the example of DDT shows someone invented in 39 and got Nobel Prize within a few years, and then it became a wildfire-like material used all over the world. Before people could even study the side effect, DDTs remain in soil for a long time, for decades. It remains on fruits and vegetables for months, so you basically are contaminated. Now, the mistake people made when they found such a beautiful solution, by the way, I also need to mention, DDT actually helped a lot with a lot of infectious disease. Bugs and flies are occasionally the carriers of all those diseases. So when you kill all those, suddenly you have less malaria and less some of those diseases, which is good. But then you suddenly also lose so many other things. So all those studies are not done. Were there alternatives? People actually found alternatives to control pest and came up with biodegradable materials, which have very little impact or side effects. So if you continue to invent and come up with new ideas, and you produce new solutions, before it really goes and gets used by the society, it needs to go through all the necessary studies. Those are expensive, of course, and that's why societies allocate a part of the GDP to do research and development, R&D, so that your idea suddenly doesn't destroy the world. Right now, if you follow the media, there are a lot of discussions about the impact of social media. There is literally virtually no regulation, no policy. So anyone coming up with something like, let's say, Facebook or Telegram, will literally have no barrier, no checks and balance, and it will eventually have some unintended side effect. So governments all over the world are working on those. In fact, in America, in some states, some apps are banned. And we allowed all those to happen before we studied a little bit. And it's not too difficult to take some ideas to a lab and then start thinking and brainstorming and coming up with the potential negative consequences. That's how the future sustainable innovation activities would happen. If people don't want to pay attention, they will have to face a consequence. You see a lot of disease in the society, widespread cancer, and a number of other things that really didn't happen that frequently and in the past in the societies. And all those are making people a little more aware of need for testing and understanding the impact of anything we use, whether it's a product in your clothes, whether it's something in your cosmetics or in your food, or something that you use to build your car or home. Everything needs to be verified for bio-friendliness and environmental friendliness and sustainability before those are allowed to in the society in a large number. And there are opportunities for innovations there. If you see a problem, if you feel like your home is not built with the right kind of material, do brainstorming, come up with a solution. I can tell you the business right now is so much influenced by sustainability that 54% of companies right now pay attention to this. It used to be less than 20 just 10 years ago. And I'm expecting it to be more than 90% by the beginning of next decade. So if you have an idea, which even might look like the product would be expensive, solution would be expensive, but it would be less in carbon footprint or impact, it definitely would be a good idea. And someone will have to shut down their business and the world will accommodate these new ideas.
And it will be definitely worth it as we are very interdependent on each other, especially in the global age. Thank you so much,
Definitely.
Professor. And if you are ready, I will have some questions for you.
Mhm.
So first of all, thank you so much for joining us today. And we have, with our audience, enjoyed the presentation and all the, information that we have gotten. And I think especially the young viewers have gotten so much motivation on, innovating and inventing and new ideas and new projects and new patents, for example. So I have a couple of questions. First of all, what is your favorite color? I think that's a very generic question that people ask as an icebreaker.
I would say purple. It probably changes over time. It changed, but right now I like purple color.
That's a great color. I have like purple for a long time in my life, but right now like I'm going between blue and yellow, but I'm glad that you like purple. So you have mentioned a book. So we have talked about Silent Spring, but what are some 3 books that you really want our viewers to read definitely in their lives, especially our younger generation, as they have learned so much from you today?
So I'm glad you asked about books, and it definitely is really important for us, young or old, to have some connection with books. The world seems to have less interest in traditional book kind of activities. From my very childhood, I used to read a lot of books. The couple of books that really left a long-lasting impression on me includes Tolstoy's War and Peace. I also read A Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. I think George Orwell's 1984 was another one. There is a very nice book written by a Austro-Hungarian author who eventually converted. His name was Mohammed Assad. He wrote a book on his travels from Austria to all these countries in different part of the world, and eventually ended up becoming Muslim and also did Hajj. And the book is The Road to Mecca. It's really, really good book. Translation is available almost in 50 languages, and it's like a novel or his traveling experience and the way he changed inward over time with all the friendship and experience that he gained in his 10-year-long journey.
Those are very cool books. I think among the ones that you have listed, my favorite would be The Tale of Two Cities. I have been a fan of Charles Dickens for a long time, and I also like the French Revolution, and I'm very interested in history. So thank you so much for your book recommendations. How about your favorite film?
So there is an Iranian film called The Children of Heaven. It probably is a 10, 15-year-old, actually 1997 film. I gave the link to that. Maybe watch that. It definitely is a very heart-touching, interesting movie. Number of Iranian movies are really, really good. This one also received a number of international awards.
That's awesome. Thank you so much, Professor. And last but definitely not least, what does art mean to you? Because as we have gathered here today, in eTalks, we don't just host artists. And as our first guest, you're a professor of electrical and computer engineering. But what does art mean to you? You have mentioned some literature and how literature can actually impact a huge change in the world, especially how JFK has read After Silent Spring. So what does art mean to you?
So human being, once you address your basic needs, which includes food and shelter, I guess then start looking for making things beautiful, organized, whether it's, presenting your food in a nice way, artistic way, or decorating your home in an appealing way, or expressing your inner beauty through some kind of expression, some tangible work. That could be creating something beautiful or writing something in a nice way, or writing poetry, or communicating with people with symbols. I think this is very integral part of human life, and human beings are probably million times stronger in that inner faculty. But you'll see birds and fishes and number of other creatures in nature also use art to express their inner beauty. Even in the deep ocean, I see fishes build beautiful homes, and they spend weeks and months to prepare that and then show others how beautiful it is, or invite their friends and companions to see that. Birds do it all the time. A lot of animals do it. They express it. Once they are done with their basic needs, the remaining extra time, part of it, they use for it. In our society, to make a better world, to make better connections with people, to avoid all the inner ill feelings we have, I think this is a tool that is way above anything else that you can think of. Whatever your discipline is, art eventually is the language of everyone. Whether you design something, do it in an artistic way, or have someone with sense of art in the team, you definitely would be a winner. You may have the best idea, but if you don't know how to use artistic way to connect with others and communicate to others, you would not make really as much progress. So I think this is among the highest priority, important activities of humanity. That obviously is not really that high priority for the current civilization, but I would say this is really important. The world can be a better one through little more introduction of art in the society.
So we can certainly say that art will save the world.
Definitely. I totally agree.
Thank you so much, Professor, for joining us today. And we have listened and valued your, beautiful presentation and valued your ideas. Thank you so much for being here today. All right, everyone. Thank you to our audience for being here with us today. If you guys have any suggestions or any comments and questions, please feel free to write them down in the chat, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. And let's tune for next week's eTalks, and don't forget to hit the notification bell. We are here every Saturday at 6 p.m. Pacific time or 9 p.m. Eastern time. And thank you so much for being here with us. Again, Saif Islam. We have, enjoyed your discussion so much. All right. See you next week, everyone.